Afternoon, Badgers. One angry pagan. Now, look, I don't want to get personal here. Okay, I don't. I'm not. As much as possible, I am gonna try not to be personal here because I don't want to be personal here. But I just finished watching the Sunday roast from this morning, and it was interest. It was interesting. Now I don't. As you can probably see by the fucking hat, I don't have many agreements with Liz Webster. Um, But I really like. Whilst I have my disagreements with Professor Tim Wilson, I like Tim. Like I really like Professor Tim. So there are a couple of dynamics going on here for me. You've got on one side you've got Alex and Graham, Political X and Politics Social, and you have got on the other side Liz Webster and Professor Tim Wilson, and so you've got two people who are from one generation and two people who are from another generation coming at different subjects like inheritance tax on when it comes with the farmers kicking off and stuff and um and state schools. Oh my god, that like the last subject, the state of the VAT on private schools, sorry, not state schools. Wow. I saw some clear lines in the sand being drawn. I don't know if anyone else noticed it, but I saw some clear lines being drawn in the sand between both sides. Graham and Alex were like, yeah, like, we don't have a problem with this. I mean, we want to get rid of private schools. We want the Finnish system. And then I mean, both Alex and Graham both, pointed out several times that most of the people you see on national television come from fucking private school. Toshi had more of a privileged education. Privileged education. And I'm like, because if it looks of it, it looks like Liz and Professor Tim went to private school. Even though they didn't necessarily come from middle class or upper class backgrounds themselves, they still went to private school. And then you've got the on the other side, you've got Alex and Graham, who, best as I could tell, both went to state school. So there's two dynamics already there. And both Tim and Alex have both worked in both private and state schools. In America, I think Alex said he did it in America as well. I'm not sure about Tim, I can't remember now. But he's worked abroad himself, he worked in Russia. And it does, there seems to be like the big one seems to be this generational gap between them. And there was defence of the private school system coming from Professor Tim and Liz, and obliteration of it. I can't think of a better word. Obliteration of it by Alex and Graham. And I have to admit, I am hard agree with Alex and Graham on this. Like, a lot of the time, one of the reasons I have issues with Liz Webster is her ideology seems somewhat, to me, a little bit incoherent. Because, on one hand, throughout the entire thing, she was going, I believe in universalism, universalism, universalism. And right at the end, she goes on about the rights of the individual, and I'm like, So wait a minute. In this one arena where we're looking for universalism, where Graham and Alex want universalism, you actually disagree with that. This is where liberals do my fucking treating. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think she's a horrible person or anything. But, like, she, I said, it just, every single time, and it was not just Liz, it was Tim, it was Professor Tim as well. Every time Alex and Graham brought up the statistics and the facts about the privilege of private school students in our media and in our politics, they were both like, and I'm like, guys, really? Like, it's hard disagree with the two of them on this one. And then, like, this inheritance tax on farmers, I'm like, then why, if fucking, if the rich boys aren't going to fucking pay it, then why are they going off to kick off about it then? That just doesn't make sense to me. She tried to explain it, and I listened to everything she fucking said. But the one thing that still stood out to me throughout everything she fucking said was, then why did Jeremy Clarkson and the others, and James Dyson and that go down to protest anyway then? And the same point, and Alex didn't make the same point that he did on the private school, on the private school thing, the VAT on private schools, which I thought was a great argument. This is not the be all and end all of this going down this way with education. This is just the start of where we're going to go down with education. Ultimately removing private schools. If you're going to have specialist schools for people with SEND, with SEN, like, fine. Specialist schools, yeah. But I don't agree with the, like, I think I heard at the end from Professor Tim as well, which kind of disturbed me a little bit, is he was talking about, I'm not entirely sure whether or not he was defending faith schools or not. Because if he was, then I've got an issue. And this is coming from a religious person. I don't agree with everything that Alex and Graham have to say all the time. But I have to admit that they were more correct. In my eye, they were more correct than both Liz and Tim. And a lot of what I saw Liz and Tim doing was defending what many of us on the left think should change. Another point was, and one point that Tim made, which I've kind of struggled with, and I still kind of do, is the point he made about conservatives. And now on one hand, I agree with Graham about, I'm sick and tired of listening to the Tories set the agenda. But on the other hand, I do also agree that we need an opposition that is actually an opposition in Parliament. But then I also like Graham's rebuttal to that of, well, that's why we wanted the Lib Dems. No? To move the level back towards the centre and left. I think I like. I mean, it's not. There aren't many Sunday brunches that I don't like, but like this was the Sunday roast that I don't like. But this one, I really have to admit, it felt like both Liz and Tim were trying to defend stuff that really shouldn't be. I mean, she did my head in back along when she turned around and said, "Oh, farmers are the guardians of nature in Britain." I'm like, you fucking ruin nature in Britain. You and the fucking land and the landholders. We don't have a natural fucking farm. We don't have natural countryside in this country. It is artificial. We removed the top level of predators in all over this country. The largest mammalian predator on this island is the fucking badger, as I've said many times. We're having to reintroduce species because of the elimination of nature by farmers and landowners. Guardians of nature, my fucking arse. No, nature as they would like to see it, which is artificial. So one of the issues, I mean, I grew up, I love it because people are like, "Oh, you're a city boy." Yeah, I grew up in Exeter, but I also grew up in a part of Exeter where there were farms, and I've been to West Point many times, where they do a lot of the farm trading. Exeter is, no, Exeter, Devon as a whole, 30% of all dairy production takes place within Devon. I grew up around a lot of fucking farmers, alright? So don't treat me like some fucking Londoner. I know about farmers. I know what the shit they come out with. I know the shit that they have to deal with as well. But they are resistant to evolution unless it benefits them in particular. And I'm like, you think a lot of this damage you did to your fucking selves? I mean, you complain about land quality. You fucking did that. So like I said, I grew up around this stuff. And I get sick and tired of being treated like some city boy. I mean, like a good half of my life has just been spent outside of the fucking city here in Torbay. Got farmers that side, fishermen the other fucking side. With the tourist sector in the middle. Don't fucking tell me I don't know shit about farming. I it does do my head in that they would defend this. That they would defend. I mean, you've got the rich boys going out there and they're complaining about this inheritance tax. This isn't just for farmers. Personally, I think a land tax. Personally, I think land tax would be better. But like being a farmer, I thought Liz would have come out and start talking about the fertilizer tax and stuff, which is a more heavy hitter than this inheritance tax. But she didn't fucking say shit about that. Would have been a more legitimate fucking argument. I know I'm not picking on her because she's a woman. There are many of my reaction videos where I fucking had a go at the gut, like when there's a male female debate dynamic, and that I'm backing the female because the man is talking fucking shit. So it's not because she's a fucking female before anyone starts on me for that bollocks. Sorry, I understand that everyone has their points of view, right? I do. I know I do. I do understand that. But I really do find, coming back to the beginning, I do find this age dynamic really interesting. Because the system that brought up Liz and Professor Tim did some good for them. But for Graham and Alex, they're seeing they're seeing the repercussions, societal repercussions for that later on down the line. When they note again, and I note this because I think it's important to note that when Alex and Graham kept pointing out the facts and figures on just how privileged private school students or people who went to private school really are, they didn't like it. The older two did not like it. They got very uncomfortable. And, you know, I Professor that I haven't seen that list. You have to show me these numbers. I'm like, really? This is really not obvious? But this is because they went to private school. So, yeah. I mean, Liz was saying at the end it could be a bit individualistic. Like my private school, we did play against other football teams, like state school football teams. Down here, I've seen it myself where private school teams don't play against fucking state school football teams. So we shouldn't have that dynamic in the fucking first place, Liz. Just because it doesn't happen in some places doesn't mean it's not going to happen in others. Point being, we should get rid of the system that even allows it to happen in the first place. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. This is a bit of a ramble about the Sunday roast. And again, I'm kind of surprised to be a bit so. Again, I don't mean I don't mean to be personal to either Professor Tim or Liz at all. This is just from an intellectual point of view. And whilst it might come across as a bit personal, it's because I get passionate about this stuff. But I don't wish either of them ill will, and I recognise that, like, again, I just want to point out that it was just a really interesting age dynamic between the two sides. I wasn't expecting that kind of thing to happen. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting an age dynamic to take place between Alex and Graham and Liz and Professor Tim. Wasn't something I was expecting, guys. So yeah, let me know what you think. My shield at your back, guys, and my sword at your service. God will and blessed be.